everyone. Welcome to another Americans for Limited Government live stream. I'm here today with Rick Manning, the president of Americans for Limited Government, and I'm Catherine Mortensen. What we want to share with you today is news that has been breaking the last 24 hours about the National Institutes of Health. An official there sent a letter in response to a member of Congress, James Comer of Kentucky, regarding the gain of function research that may have been paid or may not have been paid for by the National Institutes of Health. Turns out we taxpayers have been paying for gain of function research at the Wuhan lab. This is in direct contrast to what Dr. Anthony Fauci testified to in April. So Rick, I know this is something that has really got you fired up. Tell me sort of just bare bones, what are the facts here? And then we'll watch a video of Fauci testifying in Congress.
Well, the facts are these. We've known since 2019, based on basically letters and testimony from the actual direct contractor who got the grant from Fauci's National Institute of Health, Institute for Virology and whatever the heck it is, and allergic diseases or something. Got a grant, U.S. government taxpayer grant, that they then gave to the Wuhan lab. We know that occurred. We knew it in 2019, but Dr. Anthony Fauci kept denying it in Congress. He kept telling people like Senator Rand Paul, who is a medical doctor, they didn't know what he was talking about, and really high-profile clashes in committee hearings. And now his boss at the National Institute of Health has sent a letter, and while it's a CYA letter in every way, don't blame us, it's not our fault, their vendor didn't do what we said, which is a lie, by the way. But the fact is, our taxpayer dollars did go to the Wuhan lab. Our taxpayer dollars did go to develop viruses, bat viruses that became communicable to humans. Our money went to develop biological weapons in a lab that's controlled by the communist Chinese government. It's controlled by the Red Army, that lab is, and yet our money, U.S. taxpayer dollars, help pay for biological weapons to be developed by the Chinese government.
All right.
And Dr. Fauci is directly responsible.
Let's check out this video of Fauci testifying before the Senate last April.
With all due respect, you are entirely and completely incorrect that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain of function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Do they fund Dr. Barrick?
We do not fund.
Do you fund Dr. Barrick's gain of function research?
Dr. Barrett does not doing gain of function research, and if it is, it's according to the guidelines, and it is being conducted in North Carolina. We have not funded gain of function research on this virus in the Wuhan Institute of Virology, no matter how many times you say it.
There was research. There was research done with Dr. Shi and Dr. Barrick. They have collaborated on gain of function research where they enhanced the SARS virus to infect human airway cells, and they did it by merging a new spike protein on it. That is gain of function. That was joint research between the Wuhan Institute and Dr. Barrick. You can't deny it.
And Rick, what did you say? Senator Rand Paul had a very short reaction yesterday on Twitter to this new revelation from the NIH.
Yeah, he tweeted simply, "I told you so," doesn't even begin to cover it here. Because Dr. Fauci flat out lied. In fact, at one point, Rand Paul asked him, "You realize that you're under oath and that you can be tried for perjury when you lie." And Dr. Fauci held his ground. "No, we didn't do it. We didn't do it." Well, Dr. Fauci did do it. He knew he did it. He knew all along that this was what was happening. And the fact is, he's held firm to a lie. And now his own boss has admitted that this was in fact a lie. They're trying to blame the vendor, but they knew it all along. The data trail, the paper trail is clear. We've reported on it for a year about the paper trail. So the paper trail is clear. We knew that Fauci was lying, And now his own boss has admitted it. So the real question is, will his boss fire Dr. Fauci for lying to Congress? Because that's the only thing that can be done. Dr. Fauci has now committed perjury under oath before Congress, not once, not twice, but multiple times, as he's clung to this cover his own butt kind of scheme that he never gave money that went to China. And now the interesting part of it is he has admitted working with the Wuhan lab in the past. He's admitted that $530,000, over $500,000 has gone to the Wuhan lab. He just he was denying whether it was used for gain of function research. And when asked about the actual money that was sent to the Wuhan lab, he said that he trusted the scientists there. He had a relationship with the scientists and he trusted the scientists, completely disregarding the fact that the scientists have a gun to their head. They are a military installation. They are owned by the government, a government that is at war with the United States in every way but shooting right now. And we sent them money, $500,000 of your or my money, to develop biological weapons that can be used against us. That's what Dr. Fauci did. I don't think he meant to do that, by the way. I don't think he meant to fund biological weapons, but that doesn't matter. He did. He was responsible. Then he lied about it, and he needs to be fired.
Rick, I'm going to read just a little bit of what Lawrence Tabak, he was the official at NIH, who sent this letter to Congress. He says, in keeping with Fauci's refusal to use the term gain of function, Tabak avoids the term in his letter, though the work he described matches its commonplace definition precisely. So what we've been seeing is really an Orwellian use of the English language over at the NIH and with Dr. Fauci, where they aren't using the term gain of function, but they come up with some other term, but it's describing the same thing. And what I was reading from was a news article from Caroline Downey at National Review. It was picked up by Yahoo News. So it's these people have been obfuscating, but now it's a straight up lie. They've been misusing the language to try to hide behind words. I mean, I'm just disgusted at what is happening in our federal
government. You nailed it yesterday when we were talking about this originally. What they're attempting to do is intimidate people by using big words and say, you don't understand what we're talking about. You're too stupid to get it. And they're trying to intimidate people and by using their, wear their white lab coats to try to intimidate people into not using their own brains. And that just isn't going to work anymore. This is so crazy. You talk about an Orwellian world. Senator Amy Klobuchar, from Minnesota, Democrat from Minnesota, has legislation, it's S2488, that would do the following. It's very simple. It would say, well, Facebook, if you do not censor health information that the Department of Homeland or Health and Human Services bureaucrats, that's Dr. Fauci, that's NIH, among others, as CDC, that they approve of. If you do not ban that any other information, meaning Senator Rand Paul saying that gain of function research was conducted using US dollars, if you don't ban that, if the CDC or NIH say it's not true, then you can be sued by people for providing misinformation on your platform. That's what Senator Amy Klobuchar is trying to pass through the Senate right now under the guise of reform of Facebook, a reform of social media.
Wait, so Rick, let me just paraphrase that and make sure I fully understand. Senator Klobuchar, Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, has introduced legislation that would sort of outsource Facebook's fact checker department to the Department of Health and Human Services with regards to any sort of medical misinformation. Such that then Facebook could tell people, oh, we're not censoring you. We're just going by what the law says, that we have to stick with whatever is approved language from Department of Health and Human Services. So don't get mad at us. We're just doing what we're told. and so Facebook then wants to go along with this because they
Yeah,
can play
yeah,
you're the innocent ones.
Yeah, the ultimate irony is Facebook has Section 230 exemption under the Communication Decency Act. And what that does is it says as long as they're a neutral platform, they cannot be held liable for things that are said on their platform. And it's one of the aspects of it. And Facebook, over the last few years, has become an editor, a censor on their own platform, right, which really is the threat to their Section 230 status, because they no longer actually are a neutral platform. And so there's been a lot of demand that Facebook be held accountable and lose their exemptions from liability based on Communications Decency Act. So that's been the pressure on one side. So now it's been flipped totally on its head, where Amy Klobuchar is saying, we're going to pass a law that allows the federal government to censor information, declare what's information that can be provided and what information cannot be provided. And if they don't say it can be provided, you better not provide it, because you might be held liable and could be sued by somebody in court. Last time I checked, there was this little thing called the First Amendment. I know it's inconvenient for some that it says Congress shall make no law to abridge free speech. I know that's really an inconvenient thing for Senator Klobuchar, but it just happens to exist. And it is the First Amendment. It's not, you don't have to read very far. You just read the First Amendment, you can get there. And yet she seems to think it's okay for Congress to make a law that allows the Department of Homeland Security to censor information on a private platform. I'm sorry, that's a blatantly unconstitutional, but it's also a sop to Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg, so they can blame the government and government regulation for forcing them to drive any information that's actually valid, any actual real scientific discussion, any discussion about different possibilities, treatments, anything like that, off of their pages forever under threat of being sued by somebody in the private sector. And it's so outrageous as to be unbelievable. And it's coming in that bill. We're talking about that bill at the same time we're talking about Dr. Fauci being found out as being nothing more than I was going to say a big fat liar, but I sound like I'm 4 years old. Nothing more than a guy who's just covering his butt because he did fund gain of function research at the Wuhan labs. He knew it. He's got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and now he's desperately trying to wiggle off the hook. Bottom line, NIH, if they want to have any kind of credibility, need to fire Fauci. They need to fire him now and not allow him, and basically shut him down as being somebody who is not a reliable source of information, because based on their own letter that just came out, Dr. Fauci should be censored off of Facebook if Amy Klobuchar's legislation was in fact put into place.
So Ken Peglar on Facebook says, put all these people in prison, starting with Fauci. And that gets to the next point I wanted to ask you about is there seems to be zero accountability in this Biden administration, from our generals to our transportation secretary, who's been missing in action for 2 months during a global supply chain crisis, to now Anthony Fauci lying before Congress. No accountability. These people just skate. And I just feel so helpless. Like, what can I do? I mean, I know I'm going to vote against this administration in the midterms and in, the 2024 election. But until that time, we don't have a functioning government, a functioning Justice Department. That's how it feels to me anyway.
Yeah, it's certainly frustrating. And and I share that frustration. It's a challenge. But, the system can work. And the first thing that has to happen is the Republicans in Congress need to be bolder in their approach. They need to be going after the origins of the COVID crisis, of the COVID virus being created. They need to be holding people accountable. And the only way they'll do that is if they hear from the American public. And so we don't have it up right now, but we will within a couple hours. We're going to have a piece up on our Get Liberty site that will be a link to a an effort to pass legislation that will get a congressional hearing that goes to the origin, fights for getting to the origin of the virus. Because when we get to that, when we find that, when we uncover that, we dig deep and force these people to tell the truth, and we're able to subpoena people, and we're able to get actual documents and information out of the Health and Human Services Department and out of NIH and out of CDC. When we're able to do that, we're going to find where the bodies are buried, where the dirt really lies. And in doing so, we'll be able to fire those bureaucrats responsible. We'll be able to fire we'll be able to hold people accountable in court. And it'll be basically those people will get theirs for lying to the American public for years about this. But with the first step on this is the American public stepping up and demanding that it happen. And so within a couple of hours, go to getliberty.org. I would say by 6 p.m. on Eastern time on Friday, October 22nd, we should have something up. Tomorrow morning, if you're a subscriber to Get Liberty, you're going to should be receiving an email from us with this take action in it. And in doing so, you'll have a tool to use to send to your friends. And let's take this first step, small and frustrating that it's so small that it may be, but let's light Congress up about this and demand that they actually do something. Representative Bill Posey from Florida has the bill, is ready, is primed to go. And what we need to do is get the Republicans to all be co-sponsoring it so the Democrats can't step down, can't walk away, can't hide. They'll have to either stand up for truth or they'll have to be hiding behind Fauci. And Fauci is going to be a mighty thin reed to hide behind by the time this is done.
Well, thank you, Rick, for giving us some tools and things that we can do to make a difference. Let me just close to thank everyone for joining us today. We're grateful for your support. And being that it's a Friday afternoon, have a great weekend. Oh, let's see. Denton just joined with a comment. Look, another lie Fauci told Congress. Yeah, the guy just has no credibility, and I think he needs to be held accountable. So
back in the old days, the Native Americans would have said that he speaks with a forked tongue. And I think that fits the description just perfectly.
Thanks, everyone, for your comments. And thank you, Rick. And don't forget to subscribe if you like what we're doing. Thanks, everyone, from Americans for Limited Government.
Thank you.